This morning, as you wake up, the biggest conversation is on exactly how international indices are doing as we speak about this morning. Now, if you look at the Nasdaq index, if you look at the Dow Jones, if you look at the FTSE 100, all that, they're recording negative points as we talk about it this morning, and that has been compounded by the announcement by the US president also to cancel flights into the USA from Europe, excluding the UK. What that means, therefore, is that the fears have been confirmed, and that doesn't sound good for the international economy, because we do know the two world factories, USA and China, when they get affected, we start to look at exactly how that is going to spiral down towards this morning. Question I'm asking you is that, are you happy with the readiness and preparedness of your country for the COVID-19 threat? Good. This morning, we are joined by Abraham Muthogo, the CEO of Miradi Capital, who's going to help us through the biggest economic headlines this morning. Abraham, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, let's jump into the first issue this morning. Now, this is a big one. All right, Now, we did know, therefore, that this was a conversation that war started last year, sometime last year as well. Now, tax dispute that is pitting Kenya Revenue Authority against Keroche breweries looks set to brew further. Now, this is following Keroche breweries' decision to appeal a ruling by the Tax Appeal Tribunal that gave KRA the go-ahead to collect 9.1 billion shillings taxes from Keroche. Now, in the ruling, the Tax Appeals Tribunal held that the Keroche breweries was involved in the compounding spirits amounting to manufacturing within the meaning of Excise Duty Act 2015 and Customs Excise Act Cap 472 that has since been repealed. Good. Keroche, however, argued that diluting its Crescent vodka brand with water to make it the Vienna Ice brand and vodka did not amount to manufacturing of a distinct product for which excise duty was payable. This was the argument that they took to the tax tribunal. Tax tribunal has been listening since last year. It seems again that they are convinced that this was a distinct manufacturing process as contained within the Act of 2015 and Excise Act of 472. Good. They've said they're going to appeal. They've started appealing. So KRA yet to get the money, but according to the tax tribunal, they do have the 9.1 billion shillings that they were looking for. I want to take you back a bit, Abraham, to where all this started from. I mean, it even started before the Finance Act 2019 was actually signed into law. We did see the manufacturers of beverages, of alcoholic beverages and all sorts of drinks in the country writing to the president. They told him, look, you can't keep hitting us with incremental tax year in, year out. At one point, you have to sit back and say, let's find a workable way out of this. We know you want the money. We give you the money, but don't go like this. Good. A couple of weeks after that, that case came to the light. It looks as if Muthogo is going the litigation way. We do get that it comes from that department where it was pretty much into investigations of tax avoidance. Do you think that this is the way to go? That for him, what KRA looks to specialize on this year and onwards, just to meet their targets, if they're going to meet them, is to go the litigation way. Like, we have to go after these people who have not been paying their taxes.
I think if you look at this case, several points. And the main one being that our tax laws are not very clear. They are not clear, and two, they seem to overlap. And that is why, if you look at now, most tax cases are no longer issues of computation, they're issues of law. In fact, now most tax experts are no longer financial people, they're actually lawyers. So what has happened, if you look at, you see we've been building tax law after another, and we've not taken time to look at the effect of certain laws on others. So if you look at this, Keroche had its position, KRA had its position. And they were both legal positions. So that's why they're going to appeal, because they're going to appeal and saying we still think we are right, because they're saying if by diluting brand X with water, does it constitute manufacturing?
Yes.
So that is purely interpretation. So that means the law is weak in terms of saying, is it or is it not?
Yes.
So if they could go to, they could go to the High Court and win or lose. Or actually, the tribunal, I think, is in the level of High Court, so probably they'll go to the court.
Yes.
So, in a nutshell, what you're saying is, these laws, the way they are they understandable enough for people to comply?
Yes.
Number two, have we computed the total burden we are creating by creating so many laws? And that's why you see, that's what the manufacturers are created. They're saying,
Yes.
Let's sit down and decide what is the maximum tax this business can take in.
Yes.
And just compute one tax. But the multiplicity of taxes is so complicated that you can see these are very, very big farm. For a farm this size not to understand that law, what about you and me?
Isn't it? And we're talking about a cap that has been since repealed. We're talking about the manufacturing.
Yes.
It's the meaning that we're trying to
Yes,
get from the
yes,
Excise
yes,
Duty Act
yes.
of 2015 and Customs and Excise Act, Cap 472,
Yes.
that has since been replaced as we do know of it.
Yes.
Which therefore begs the question, if indeed that Keboche breweries didn't understand what does this means,
Yes.
is our tax law that complicated? And would you say that overall, therefore, that tax law is quite a complicated area?
No. As it stands, it is. Even
Yes.
at personal law, at personal taxes.
Yes.
Even that is not clear.
Yes.
So, and I think we've said it here before. I think we need to sit down. I think KRA needs to simplify these acts. There's
Yes.
the same way, you remember, some time back, there were a lot of land acts around. And most of them were repealed and they were replaced by very few acts that are very easy to understand.
Yes.
Maybe we need to go that route.
Yes.
Whereby we say, if it's domestic taxes, can it be regulated by one law?
Yes.
If it's excess duty, one law. So that we have just a few acts which you can be read in English. And we make sure that these laws don't overlap or don't work at cross purpose with each other. I think we stand to lose better, to win better. Because if otherwise the way it stays, all you have to get is good lawyers.
Yes.
And get away with it. But if the laws are clear, then it will have no other interpretation,
Yes.
no matter which court you go to.
Yes. I want to point you out to another case that we actually did see the tax tribunal rule against KRA. The biggest case that was between the betting and sport person.
Yes,
They wanted
yes.
upwards of 60 billion shillings in unpaid taxes. And we see what the tax tribunal ruled. They cleared KRA and betting. Sorry, they cleared sport person betting. And KRA did also now say they were actually going to appeal that ruling again. Now, Abraham, from where you sit, I mean, if we go the litigation process, we do also know that there's also a pending case by Kariuki, the
Yes.
billionaire,
Yes.
also. We're waiting to see exactly where this goes. It's going to take some time because now we're talking about 9.1 billion shillings, which Kerry, as we do of it today, has not realized that money. We're still waiting for Keboche breweries to appeal as well, and nobody knows the eventuality of this case. Can't we settle these cases in a different way as opposed to litigation? Because what we do know is that this cap has been repealed. It dates all the way back to 2015. Could Kerry say, yes, you have not repaid this money? Could we get a bit, maybe at least that money back, so that now you're clear that henceforth, this is exactly the way it goes? Because it tends to think that if you go to litigation process again, you're bound to lose time and you're not even sure whether you're going to get this money. And some of this also costs KRA. Should they lose these cases as well?
I think you put it very well.
Yes.
I think ultimately, after all this dust settles, the best way out will be an out-of-court settlement.
Yes.
An out-of-court settlement, when you go to an out-of-court settlement, you do not go with a position that they have. You see, if you go that I'm right by law, that's why we are fighting, because I'm saying I'm right, you're saying you're right.
Yes.
But in our litigation, we say, yes, we are both right. But how can we both win? If we go as 9.2 and they say you're going to pay us 5, we can say, okay. Because of the interest of time,
Yes.
I'll take the 5 and forget about the 4 that I think, because you're saying you only owe me 5. And we move on. And if we settle all of them, we'll have money in the bank tomorrow. But this one, as you're saying, we could do the 9, they could have an order for 9.2, go to court of appeal and lose it.
Yes.
So for me, I think more negotiation. But again, the genesis of all this problem is the law.
Yes.
The law is so complicated, the multiplicity of it, so that to a point where nobody really knows at what point you're compliant, at what point you're not.
Yes.
And don't forget, these are businessmen. They'll interpret this law so that they pay less tax. KRA will interpret the same law so that they charge more tax. So why can this law be clear? So that if it says 5 has no other meaning other than 5.
Yes.
But if you use other legalistic language, to define numbers, that's what happens.
Pretty much.
Yes.
Yes. Lastly, therefore, for somebody listening to you this morning, I want to point you out to BAT when they were just releasing their results this year. They said that, well, most of these profits that we're posting could have been better. But just because of the incremental tax that we're getting into this sector, you don't expect for us to really continue to perform that good. Same thing. We also did see the beverage manufacturers also running the president last year. They were telling him, you have to think of a different way to taxes because you can't keep on hitting us with taxes left, right, and center. This is another way, therefore, we're going to talk about if this goes into Keroche breweries, then we're going to talk about different numbers again, where they're going to give us their results. Is there a way that we can approach these industries in Kenya separately? Because it looks as if that every time the government wants to get money, it knows the best, surest way to go is to hit them with taxes. And what is the eventual feeling, therefore, even when we look at bringing in investors into the country? Are we pushing them away, or we're creating it good for them to come in and actually get to invest in these industries?
If you look at the way we are doing tax now,
yes, we
seem to be punishing the compliant people. Because since BAT or Keroche or wines of the world are well structured,
yes,
it's very easy to know how much they are making and continually pound them. But the issue is a lot of people out there are consuming public goods without paying for them.
Yes.
So a lot of people are not paying taxes. So the conversation should shift there. How come such a big sector, especially of the SME, and at the individual level, people are not paying taxes?
Yes.
How come they're getting away with it?
Yes.
And there may be more money there than looking for following this kind of money. Because this kind of money, you may have it or may not have it. So the most sustainable way is to go to the blue ocean,
yes,
and find out why are these people not paying? How come they're getting away with it? And follow that up. But with the way we are continually pushing the corporates, that's why you see that some of them are starting to relocate.
Yes.
And the ones who want to come, when they look at the tax regime and look at this kind of cases, they run away.
That's exactly what it is that we're talking about, isn't it? All right, now we're just going to leave it there because we do expect that Keroche Breweries is going to appeal this ruling by the tax tribunal. According to law, yes, they can appeal this. So we're going to see exactly how this also goes on. Now let's move on to our next story this morning. We're talking about exactly how British oil explorer Tullow Oil is locked in a vicious fight with Kenya over the London Stock Exchange listed firm's demand for 204 billion shillings as compensation for its 6-year works in the Turkana oil fields. Now, the Ministry of Petroleum has rejected Tullow's compensation bill, arguing that it was excessive and not justified. Now, oil firms recover their exploration costs over years once production and sale of the commodity starts, which in Kenya is planned for 2022. But Tullow requires commitment from the government that Kenya owes the firm 204 billion and wants to use the pledge to sweeten the offer for the sale of its stake. Tullow, which has 50% stake in the blocks 10 BN and 10 BB and 13th in the South Lokishan Basin, submitted the compensation bill last week. Now, the exploration bill has been the subject to speculation for years following delays by the government to hire a firm to audit the costs. Now, Kenya hired an undisclosed firm in 2016 for the audit whose findings are yet to be used to challenge the Tullow bill. A lack of agreement on the compensation could force Kenya and Tullow to go for arbitration in the UK in line with the crude oil exploration contract. Good. What does disagreement, therefore, over the bill say about the government of Kenya's dealings with Tullow Oil? It looks as if it's a straight issue, but now it's getting a bit complicated. Did we jump too fast into this business? Because that now seems to be the concern for everybody.
I think you remember when Tullow was coming on board.
Yes.
Even the law was not there. That's
yes.
when we were fumbling with how do we deal with oil in Kenya, because it was a new thing, and we were even talking about how do we share the revenue around.
Yes.
But remember, the agreement between the government and Tullow is not a public document. So you and I don't know what was agreed in that document.
Yes.
But you can see even the firm that was hired in 2016 to audit is also undisclosed.
Yes.
So there's a lot of shrouding of mystery around.
And we haven't seen
Yes.
the findings of the firm.
So there's a lot of mystery there. But what this tells us, is looking at that document, is that maybe we're not clear about who was to pay what, how, which.
Yes.
Now, a background of this is that we are now at the early oil production, where we are supposed to be doing 2,000 barrels a day for the next 2 years. And the idea is to make sure that we test all the wells and make sure that they are ready for full field production.
Yes.
In oil exploration, what normally happens is the company goes in to explore at their own risk, but with an agreement that if you find oil, then the government of the day will take up its share in retrospect.
Yes.
And that's what's happening now. Now the government is calling up its share in retrospect because you found oil, our share kicks in, but we have to pay for it. You see now that the payment is coming in. Now the issue is of how much. You see, again, as I'm telling you, with the moment you use legalistic language to define numbers, this is what happens.
Yes.
If you don't define numbers in absolute terms.
Yes.
So now they're saying about $2 billion. The government is saying less. But if you look at the 2 billion in absolute numbers and in terms of what is there, it's not a big number. But the question is, what are we looking at? We're looking at it based on what?
Yes.
Or comparing it with what? So this is a clear case of where, when we are signing, as you're saying, we're jumping in too fast. You put it very well. And maybe would have a better discussion if this document was made public, so that we see what exactly was agreed. Yes. Because the objective is that for the government to get, and government is me, you and I, to get our share in retrospect. Yes. In this vehicle. Don't forget, Tullow now wants to jump out. So basically, what they're doing, they're trying to sweeten this deal for the guy they're going to sell it to. Don't forget the oil market now is hit rock bottom. Yes. I mean, $26, $27 a barrel is very low. But Tullow also has having their own problems from their parent company, which now are spilling over to us because they need to exit. Yes. But for you to exit, you have to show what you're selling. So they cannot sell it the way it is now because they have to sell it saying that the government has agreed to this amount. Yes. So now, if it goes to arbitration, that's the worst thing. That's the worst that can ever happen to Kenya, because your first case of oil has gone to arbitration. So how will you ever attract another person? So the government should try all it can, even if it means swallowing this pill. Yes. For the sake of the future. Yes. Because going to arbitration, arbitration will be the UK. Yes. Tullow is from the UK. Yes. So I'm not saying anything, but what I'm saying, most probably they'll win. And because knowing that they have been in this game for long, probably they skewed the contract to their favor. So at the end of the day, I think for us, we need to set the right investment tone. Yes. That when you come to invest in Kenya, we honor our word. Yes. But this goes to arbitration. What we'll be sending out there is that we are people who change our mind. We are people who shift goalposts. Not good for us.
Now, for any Kenyan listening to you, Abraham, this morning, you like to understand why probably some of these contracts that we're talking about here are pretty much private. And is it possible for us that for Kenya, therefore, to decide, good, we can give this contract to a different investor? Ditch Tullow, because we know they're a company that are struggling with their finances and management as well, and then pick up another person in the process? Or is it because now that we're so much tied with private contracts to the point now it gets very hard for Kenya to move out? And I want to point you out to what Tullow was saying the other day, that when we look at exactly what Kenya has done around our belts for oil, they're complaining about bad climate and bad roads and all that. Is it a company just trying to move out of Kenya, whether we like it or not? Because they know they've got us.
You see, when you hear those kind of reasons, they're not true. Yes. They're not valid because that climate was there when they were going. Yes. I mean, Turkana was not an equatorial forest and now becomes something else. Yes. Okay? But there are things that are very clear. Yes. That Tullow wants out. So they are no longer interested here, and they want out for reasons that are coming from elsewhere. Yes. So people are, Kenya on the other hand is trying to do its first oil project. So our reasons are, we're no longer on the same page. Previously we were on the same page because we were both exploring. We wanted to stay here. We wanted to make money. Kenya makes money for itself, and Tullow makes money for itself. Yes. Now Tullow just wants to cash in
and move out.
Move out.
Yes.
So right now their interests of what happens to us is not part of the interest. Yes. Yeah. So we also have to be very careful when we're dealing with them, because their interests are purely to sell us. Literally using they're actually selling us off.
Yes.
Yes.
We're just going to leave it there, Abraham, and take a short break. Once we come back, though, we shall be looking at exactly what is happening also in the banking sector in the country. Turns out all those mergers and acquisitions we're talking about last year haven't stopped. They're still going on. Case in point, the Cooperative Bank of Kenya and Jamii Bora Bank. What do you want to know about them? Shortly after the break.